All right. So after 2 weeks of having to put up with Nintendo's serious active greed, I think it's time for me to talk a little bit more about what they can actually do to make things right, not just for themselves as a company or business, but also for everyone else. That includes us as their customers, and also to, to do the right thing for their more innocent employees that have to suffer the consequences of the shit they've been pulling on us with the Switch 2, especially. Now, besides the Switch 2, there are other things that Nintendo needs to really change with. Okay. What am I talking about? So let me just be very clear. Nintendo has been pretty well known over the last 20 years now, I guess, for the fact they have been shutting down. They've been shutting down emulators. They've been shutting down emulators, excuse me, that that help people um, preserve Nintendo's classic games. And the more I think about it right now, the more I start to realize that people do this out of respect for Nintendo's classic games. They're not doing it to disrespect Nintendo directly, okay, or indirectly. They do it out of love for Nintendo to make sure that their classic games are preserved for the future. Unfortunately, Nintendo has a really hard time understanding that, and they just they just shut everyone down like without second thought. It really amazes me that they're still doing this right now, and to make matters worse, they really they tripled down with their greed with the Switch 2, but that's beside the point. Another thing that really bothers me with Nintendo too is that they also shut down a lot of fan projects, and that is something that they also need to stop doing as well. Because Nintendo, if you keep shutting down fan projects, you're gonna hurt yourself in the process. I'm just being honest with you, okay? Look, you can be mad at me for defending your community who does things like this, but I'm gonna be very real with you. People are doing this because they're showing that they want to be a part of you someday, and you need to respect the fact that they're making fan projects, or even like they're making like better remakes of your classic games. Let me just put it that way. But the fact that you keep shutting these people down, you're making yourself look bad. I'm just that's all I have to say about you. Anyway, there's still a lot going on with Nintendo right now. I get that, but Nintendo really needs to change their ways for the better. Stop shutting down fan projects. Stop getting rid of emulators. Uh, I know they're trying to protect their IPs. I get that, but there's a right way to do it and also a wrong way to do it, and Nintendo doesn't do it very well. Not let alone the fact that they have become a lot worse ever since the Switch 2 has been announced. We are living in the very dark age of gaming in the 2020 era. I really cannot stress that enough. And honestly, I find it really upsetting that, well, it's not just for games too, but and movies and everything. It's like movies and TV. Everything is just like falling apart. That there's nothing really worth watching anymore. If I want to watch a movie, I would just like watch a classic film and just call it a night, and that'll be it. But it's such a shame that everything's just falling apart so much, and it's painful enough to make a grown man cry. I'm just going to be very honest about that too. I look, there's nothing to sugarcoat about this, okay? Everything that's happening is, it's all part of reality. We need to not only, well, not just accept it, but we also need to face the reality that we're dealing with right now. That way, we can actually learn from the mistakes that others have made. And unfortunately, Nintendo is not any better. It was bad enough for me to completely lose my love and trust for Disney, especially with the live actions remakes they've been doing, and they they have done a lot of damage to themselves with how they have been handling with the live action remakes. With the politics being involved and everything, and it's not looking good for them either. I know Lilo and Stitch is coming out too, but they've also made some changes that are going to be different from the original animated version. I'm not going to go into that right now, but everything's just so messed up now. I don't know where to go from here either. And to be honest with you too, given the current state Nintendo's in, they it's like they hurt me so much. It's making me have second thoughts as to like me wanting to work for them someday. It's such a shame, but really, Nintendo, you got to do better. I had a lot of trust for you, hoping that you would do a lot better compared to what Disney's doing. Not just Disney, but also Sony and Microsoft and all these other gaming companies as well. But you didn't you didn't learn anything from these companies. The way I see it right now, Nintendo, is that I remember this too. Actually, let me be very clear about this. So before the Switch One was released worldwide, what Nintendo actually did, look, this is just how I see it. It's like they saw what Sony and Microsoft did with their online services, like like oh wow, look at this. Sony and Microsoft are making people pay for the online service. Let's do the same thing. We'll make it cheap at first, and if people actually get into it, we'll make it more expensive, and we can just take more money for them. And you basically just exploited people's trust for you just to be more greedy with yourself. Anyway, that's all I have to say about the matter. I think, yeah, there are a lot of ways Nintendo can really improve themselves. Like they have to stop shutting down fan projects. They have to stop shutting down emulators. At the same time, though, they need to do something about the Switch 2's so-called C button, which is for chatting with other people. What I heard is that people have to pay to use that, and that's not going to help the Switch 2, the Switch 2 being released in June. At this point, I think Nintendo needs to delay the Switch 2 to have it released during the holiday season. That way, they have some time to fix themselves, clean up their act, not just for the system, but everything else they've been doing in the past. So there's really that. Anyway, I can't control what Nintendo does. All I can do is all I can do right now is just call them out on the BS that they're pulling on this right now, and hopefully they'll learn uh from what we say in our videos as YouTubers. This is Major League Gaming logging out. Thank you guys for watching.